I tell you something that I've witnessed an awful lot in life is complicating things that could actually be incredibly simple and incredibly enjoyable. And I've made a comment on a one sentence comment on a post yesterday, and I was expecting that maybe I'd get 50, 100 likes, because it was commenting on something kind of controversial on a big-ish account. But now, when I get home, I wouldn't be surprised, and we're not talking millions and millions of impressions, but I wouldn't be surprised if this particular comment had reached the 400 likes march. It's well over 350 already, and tens of thousands of views. But what I see an awful lot of, that it's not just about overcomplicating things and turning simple things into mountains into molehills. It's actually the gargantuan amount of anger there is, and resentment as well. And the thing is, it actually seeps into everything that we do and that we witness: politics, culture. I think we're living in a time where very basic things that we've understood for a long time are incredibly divisive, because I think there's a lack of agreement on how we want to live. We have a multitude of choices at our fingertips, and I think in these turbulent times where nothing feels steady and predictable or reliable or secure, I think it's really, really important to establish what is important. And in a time of anger and resentment, which is actually born out of confusion, people don't know what the fuck they're doing, and people don't know which way's up and which way's down, and what's black and what's white, and what very simple things that we used to be able to decide upon very easily are now sources of huge consternation and argument and disagreement. And to me, the most important thing in all of this chaos is actually one's own peace, of not making much ado about nothing. And that was actually the title of my blog post this morning, the famous play by the Bard, by Shakespeare, whomsoever you believe is the author of said works of Shakespeare, that much ado is made about nothing. A huge amount of fuss comes out of what could actually be very, very simple things to decide upon. And I was inspired by the phrase of Shakespeare's that we have to remember who we are as men, and I think that a sense of dignity goes an awful long way. And the really hilarious thing in making this incredibly, I've been using this word a lot in my communications about said subject, it's incredibly innocuous, very, very basic, unoffensive, uncontroversial, simple statement, that I was called all manner of names in reply. Pussy was one. Somebody called me a leftist. That's no. Somebody also called me a globalist, which is incredibly wrong. But you can see that all of these assumptions people make, and of course we have no idea to whom we are responding. Deep fakes and AI and bots and troll accounts and shit posters, all of this stuff. We have no idea who we're actually dealing with. But it's all a bit of a laugh, you know, as we'd say when I lived down in London. I'm having a laugh, mate, you know? You're taking the piss. But it's all a game, most of it. And it's noise, you know? It's people spurging out in modern day parlance. People, you know, looking for eyeballs, looking for attention, you know, looking for that dopamine fix that we're all aware of. But how effective is it at leading a good life? How useful is it? How productive is it? How peaceful is any of it? Well, not very, you know. And of course, at various moments in response to certain people's replies to my comment on the original post, it's just layers and layers and layers and layers down, you know, I defended myself a little bit, I explained myself a little bit, I expounded and expanded on what I had originally said. And the truth is that most of this kind of argumentation and getting into the fray isn't particularly useful, but it's also, let's be honest, it can be a bit of fun, you know. It can be a bit of a laugh, it can be a bit of a joke, and you can actually learn quite a lot about human nature, about, you know, where people are in their lives, where, you know, people are actually, how they're occupying their time, how they're using their time. And what I think is really, really important to remember is that despite all of this stuff going on, and there are literally millions and millions of these kind of conversations going on a daily basis, just on somewhere like Twitter, and that's just one platform, that even though it feels like a bit of a storm, and people have talked about Twitter storms for years, even though it kind of feels like it's this really anxiety-inducing thing, well, actually, it's not. It all blows over. And it's really important that in looking for peacefulness and productivity at the same time, that you're filling your life with positive, uplifting, meaningful things that actually make a powerful and positive difference. And to understand that if you're embroiled in something that feels like it's really important and really serious, it really isn't. Because, you know, now that teeny little maelstrom has settled, and it's now, you know, just bubbling under the surface again, that you return to who it is that you are, or who you want to be as a human being. And for my part, what I really value is dignity, grace, prosperity, and remaining within your own influence, being dignified. I say it again, it goes an awful long way. And in any given situation that you find yourself in, or that you've created, always remember that you can be the more upright and powerful person, and set an example for your fellow man.